Hey guys, I hope you had a great weekend, great weekend, and I hope you enjoyed the first video. This is our second video, and of course we can talk about the dynamics of chapter 2. We're gonna go over everything today. We're gonna talk about a whole bunch of stuff in chapter 2, but before we start our lecture today, please make sure that you follow the course schedule, you follow the course content as well, along with the course schedule. It's in your syllabus. Should be page 7, must be page 7. So please make sure you follow it, and then make sure you turn your quizzes on time, before or on deadline, and your homework set as well. If you haven't started your homework set, please make sure you get on that as soon as possible. Okay? Any questions, anything you would like to ask about the first chapter or upcoming homework set or the submissions or deadline, anything related to class materials, class itself, please do not hesitate to shoot me an email. Come see me in my office, room 254 in Rosen College, and or reach me somehow by using web courses as well. Very good. All right, what we're going to do today, chapter 2, is all about, let me underline, cost concepts and cost management. Okay, we are going to learn a whole bunch of stuff. We are going to talk about, as you know, the first page is always a lecture outline. We are going to talk about the concept of cost, what we have in there. We will talk about the different components of cost, such as excuse me, fixed cost, variable cost, mixed cost, and then we will do some quantitative analysis pertaining to all these fixed cost, variable cost, and the mixed cost. We will talk about indifference point by blending fixed cost and the variable cost as well, and then, as you see here, we will talk about different costs items at the very end of this chapter in this video. Okay? So, I want everybody right now to think about the concept of cost. I'm not showing this to you. Let me just show it. Nice, okay. The concept of cost. What is it? Cost. Think about it. Cost in general. Forget about the hospitality industry right now. Forget about our industry right now. Forget about operations. Forget about everything that you know. Cost. Cost is some amount of monetary value that we pay to products, goods, or services that we like to purchase, utilize, and so on and so forth. Therefore, cost is the amount of money. Let me just highlight this. Cost is the amount of money that we purchase the products we would like to utilize. This is the book definition. This is the official definition of the cost. However, I would like to draw your attention right over here that cost is not just the amount of money. $10, $100, $150, or $200 doesn't matter. The amount of money that we utilize to purchase any product, any hospitality product, any hospitality service includes these guys over here, which is very, very important. For example, effort. Cost includes effort. Yes, the definition of cost, the cost structure itself includes effort. What do you mean? The time that you spend, the effort that you make to get specific amounts of money together to purchase specific product is called an effort component in the cost definition, or effort component in cost structure itself. Material is the product itself, is the service itself, or is anything you're buying. Whatever you're buying, it's itself. Resources. What are the resources? Your monetary values, your funds, your monetary value of your funds, the resources that you have to purchase the product that you want in the hospitality establishments. These are the resources. Time and utilities consumed. You can follow my lecture at the same time, either here or in your printed document. Time and utilities consumed. The length of time you spend to get that product in any hospitality establishment. The electricity, the gas for your car, you name it, every single thing is also included in cost component, and these are also calculated to come up with the true cost value, true value of that specific cost of the product that we are dealing with or that we are purchasing. Okay? Risk incurred. Well, we would like to buy a product. Imagine that we would like to go to any mall, excuse me, and we would like to buy the specific product. There is a risk involved in that process because the product we want might not be there anymore. The store or any establishment might be out of stock, that we might not be able to find the product we want anymore. Therefore, there's always risk involved in cost structures. Opportunity foregone in production and delivery of the goods. Well, we're going to talk about opportunity cost, but opportunity foregone in the cost items is that if there are two different items that we are comparing, or we are in stock, okay, we are stuck in buying either this one or that one, okay, and if you pick any of these, the one that we didn't pick has a cost value because we said goodbye to that asset because we didn't purchase, or we said goodbye to that product because we didn't purchase. Therefore, the opportunity gone is also, in terms of course, monetary value, is also attached to that process as well. So it's basically the opportunity cost. It's the cost gone. It is the best given up option that we can think about in the cost structure, but we will talk about it more. I'm sure you know you have heard this term before this class. Very good. So let's continue. Well, there are a couple of things I would like to mention in my lecture notes, guys. I didn't mention this in my previous video, which is the first chapter, but I would like to mention right now that anything underlined and bold, any statement, any phrase, or any keyword, any word, if it's underlined, or if it's underlined and put it in bold in terms of the format, it means it's a little bit more important than the other guys. For example, take a look at this. I would like to underline this, that you will see what I'm talking about. This statement is an important statement. As you can see, this statement, these two lines over here, they are in bold and they are italic, not underlined, I'm sorry, italic. Therefore, this statement, or the paragraph itself, includes an important information that you have to retain, you would like to understand better and better, because, as I said, it has important information, just like this statement right here. So please make sure when you are studying by yourself for the test or try to solve the homework questions, and if you go back and take a look at your lecture notes, make sure that these are important statements as well. And of course, there is a high chance for those kind of information, there's a high chance to be in test as a question. Okay, just to clarify this, so you will understand why I put some of the phrases and sentences in different format, and that's the exact reason. Okay, guys, all expenses, right here, all expenses are considered as costs, but not all costs can be considered as expenses. Think about it for a second. What do I mean by that? Well, I know that all expenses are costs. Okay, so I have expenses, they are the costs as well, but not all the costs can be expense. Guys, the only condition to explain this sentence is that if any asset purchase, if any purchase, could be consumer, could be any hospitality establishment itself, if any asset purchase is defined as the investment, asset or capital investment, okay, which will generate revenues, cash flows sometime in the future, for example, for the 5-year period from now, or 3-year or 10-year, that's not the cost itself, because the item that we just purchased, we as the hospitality establishment or decision maker, we purchase is going to produce and generate revenues and profits. Therefore, the investment is going to be on the plus side. Therefore, it will not be our expense. It will be the opposite side of the expense. It will be listed or counted or put into our statements as the revenue and profit items. Okay, that is why it is very important. Cost is important, guys. It's very important because by managing the costs right, by controlling the costs right, establishments, hospitality establishments realize more and more profits, higher level of profits, increase their profit margins, increase their revenues, decrease their break-even points. We will talk about in chapter 3, break-even analysis and CVP, and of course pay less and less for what they need to buy to run the operations at full capacity, okay, or any capacity. The lower the costs, of course, that we know this, it's pretty much common sense. The lower the cost, the greater our firm's profits, of course, because if you lower the cost over here, think about this, it's like different elevators. This is the cost, this is the profit right here. If you lower the cost right here, even though you generate the same level of revenues, just because of the decreased costs, the profit chunk of the revenue will be higher, therefore it's what you want. Again, guys, all we do in business operations, all we do in managerial accounting concepts, we would like to maximize revenues and thus profits while minimizing the cost. So this will be the utmost main objective in managerial accounting, okay? Well, we know this, not all costs are considered expenses. For hospitality operations, there are important cost structure that we have to deal with, all right? Fixed cost is extremely important. Let me just go scroll down and talk about this. Fixed costs are extremely important for the hospitality industries, and the main reason is that hospitality companies, they have to. Could be Marriott, could be Darden, could be Yum Brands, could be Disney cruise lines, could be any casinos back in Vegas. Every single hospitality operation, okay, they have to invest in capital projects to grow and grow and grow. Therefore, they can capture more market share and thus revenues and hence profits. That is exactly why fixed assets become very important. Well, if there are fixed assets, therefore fixed costs component of the entire cost structure must be very important to hospitality companies as well, okay? Therefore, we are going to analyze fixed cost over here along with the unit fixed cost as one of the most common types of cost structure in the hospitality industry. One more thing I would like to mention that signifies the importance of fixed costs. Hospitality customers consume the hospitality products in a physical place. In other words, hospitality companies have to put their products and services and goods, whatever they provide to the customers, in a physical place so they can sell, so they can turn down their inventory, so they can make money. That is exactly why fixed cost becomes important, because in order for them to put more and more items in the market, they have to produce, build, or buy physical properties to put the products in. Don't forget that. It is very important, right? Very good. So guys, the fixed cost is the first thing that I would like to show you over here. I'm going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it right now, and we're going to see examples along with the visualization of the fixed cost. We're going to see a graph right now. Guys, fixed costs are the costs that do not change in short and mid-term, but they do change in the long term. Therefore, fixed costs are stable, they are constant in respect to changing sales volume. They don't change in the short term such as around 1 year or less than a year, mid-term 1 to 3 years, and the long term 3 or 4 plus years. Let's just define it that way. Okay. Therefore, fixed costs don't change in short and mid-term, but they do change in the long term. For example, imagine lease expenses. Lease expenses or wages are the most important fixed cost component of the hospitality companies or the properties. Therefore, in the long run, 4 plus years or 5 years, of course, those expenses change, just like your, let's say, individuals' rent payments. Okay, after 12 or 15 months, there will be a new lease. There will be new lease agreements. Therefore, there's a high chance that lease agreements will go up. Therefore, the same concept that we can apply to the institution level as well. Hospitality companies, they do deal with the lease expenses, more wages and salaries. Wages and salaries grow, okay, in time, just like lease expenses, okay. Therefore, in the long term, fixed cost changes, but in the short or mid-term, fixed costs usually don't change. It's just based on the property type, establishment type. They might have different operational strategies, but of course, this is the main logic about the fixed cost, okay? It doesn't change in respect to changing sales volume. So, unlike fixed costs, we're going to talk about unit fixed cost. Guys, fixed cost right here, FC, is the total fixed cost for the entire operation. UFC over here is the fixed cost per unit, such as per room, such as per plate or drink or glass in F&B operations. So we can differentiate FC and fixed UFC just like that. Well, we know that fixed cost doesn't change, okay? But take a look. UFC has an inverse relationship with the changing sales volume, meaning if sales volume goes up, this is the sales volume right here, if sales volume goes up, UFC will go down. And vice versa, if sales volume goes down, UFC will go up. How? Why? I will show you the graph. Let's talk about the graph. Let's analyze the graph, and then we will check out the in-class exercise examples that we have in our lecture notes, and then it will be much more clear because we are going to prove that, prove those conditions right here, that fixed cost doesn't change and UFC has an inverse relationship between itself and the changing sales volume. Guys, take a look at this. This is the fixed cost graph right here in two-dimensional space. We have the fixed cost over here on the vertical line, and we have the sales volume over here on the horizontal line. As you can tell, from 50 to 200. Let's imagine that these are a number of rooms. I'm just giving an example. There's an increasing trend from left to right, my left to right, it could be your right to left. And then if you from bottom to up right here, you can see that FC is increasing. But take a look at this. There's a horizontal line which is represented by a red color, okay, red line. So FC doesn't change. Even though I sell 50 rooms right here, I will have to pay $150 worth of fixed cost. Doesn't matter if I sell 200 rooms, I will still have to pay fixed costs over here. Fixed costs such as lease expenses, such as salary people, fixed costs such as commercial loan repayments, okay, just like our car loan repayments as well. So these are the most of the very pronounced and very common fixed cost items. So we know this fixed cost is increasing over here, but it doesn't increase actually because 150 over here. Let's say 150 red line with the in respect to increasing sales volume from here to this point, it has to be the horizontal line. Therefore, fixed cost does not increase or decrease by changing sales volume, guys. Okay. So how about UFC? Take a look at UFC over here. UFC has a different structure. Why? Let's analyze it. My UFC here, my sales volume here, okay, from 50 to 200, number of rooms, let's say, from $0 to $3, okay? So if I sell 50 rooms, okay guys, right here, if I sell 50 rooms, I will have to pay $3 to produce that room. Meaning, as the fixed cost, of course. For example, electricity spent until the room gets sold, the AC units or time and effort is spent by the housekeeping personnel, and of course the turn down service by itself is equal to $3 to produce per unit at 50 room level. But something happens if I move along with my sales from left to right, it could be right to your left, from 50 to 200, there's a decreasing trend of UFC, okay? At the 200 level, as you can tell, it's roughly $1, which means increasing sales volume, increasing number of sales, increasing number of rooms, in other words, increasing occupancy percentage is going to give us decreased UFC, and that's exactly what we want as well. Of course, controlling other types of costs too. We're going to get there, we're going to discuss them. So let's just start thinking a little bit. I will show you the example right now, and I will show you the equations that we utilize to calculate fixed costs and unit fixed cost. Okay? Let me just raise this real quick. I'll show you guys. Okay. Excuse me. Take a look at this, guys. So these are the main equations we utilize to calculate fixed cost and the unit fixed cost, okay? Fixed cost has two different equations based on the conditions. First equation is sum of all fixed costs incurred, sum of all the fixed cost items given in the question, in the case study, in the operation, whatever, or UFC multiplied by number of units sold is also going to give us the fixed cost. Okay, so how am I going to differentiate, about how to use those two different equations right here, guys? This is the condition. If you are given a list of fixed cost items, for example, wages, lease expense, loan repayments, and so on and so forth. If you are given a list of fixed cost items in any operation, you will have to utilize the first one. However, if the question itself or the case study itself or whatever you're dealing with, whatever the situation is, if that situation includes UFC and number of units sold, you can utilize the second question because the first question becomes irrelevant because we don't have all the fixed cost items given in the question, given in the case study. That is exactly how we differentiate when and how to use number 1 and number 2, equation number 1 and number 2 for the fixed cost, and I will show you the examples in this lecture as well. Quiz number 2 has different questions, different practice questions that make you use 2 different equations. So please take it serious and solve the question so you will get to differentiate how and when to use those 2 unique equations for the fixed cost. UFC in this case becomes fixed cost over number of units sold, and we are going to utilize all these equations to solve for what we need to solve for FC and UFC. Guys, it's too much talking right now, and this is going to be our first in-class exercise. I will show you, and then we will also prove ourselves an inverse relationship between UFC and sales volume and the constant relationship between sales volume and the FC. So take a look at this example, and we're going to talk about the Fulham Hotel. Guys, let me remind you this before I show you this example. I'm going to read the question carefully. I'm going to take it slow since it is the first equation because I would like you to get used to how to approach quantitative questions. I usually have 4 different steps to deal with quantitative questions. First step, guys, is to understand the question. Understand what you're solving for. Second step is to pick the right equation. Well, if you understand the question well, you will go back to your lecture notes and you will pick the right equation. Third step, analyze the equation. Analyzing the equation means we will analyze the components of the equation to see what we have and what we don't have for the equation, and just solve for what you need to solve for. Okay, so guys, the reason I wrote all the steps right here, you don't have to take my advice, but I would suggest, I highly suggest that if you try to analyze all the questions using those 4 steps right here, it will make your life a little bit easier during the tests and in your professional career for any single problem that you encounter with, because these steps are the logical mathematical steps that you can utilize to come up with the solution that you need for every single question. So let's just read the question right now. Let's understand what we are solving for. I know I apologize that I have to erase this constantly, but I would like to point out what we are dealing with, and it will be just for your convenience, trust me. Okay? So assume that Fulham Hotel sold 5,000 rooms in July. Perfect. In August, number of rooms sold jumped to 5,250 due to high season. Okay, so in July, let me just write down over here. In July, August right here, we had 5,000 rooms. Okay, but now we have sold 5,250. Great. If Fulham has a total fixed cost of $2 million, so Fulham has a fixed cost of $2 million, okay? What is the fixed cost for August? So take a look at what we're solving for right now, guys. We have multiple questions in one question. Fixed cost for August, question number 1. What was the UFC for July? UFC for July, question number 2. What is the UFC for August? UFC for August. So as you can see right here, we have 3 different questions, and we will have to solve for them. Well, for some of them, these are the questions that we are dealing with. For some of them, we don't even have to use the equation and come up with the solution. For example, first question: what is the fixed cost for August? Okay, based on the given information. What do you think? Do I need to calculate anything? No, I can hear you saying no. Great. No, because fixed costs do not change in short term. From July to August, 1 month. I don't think fixed costs will change. Therefore, fixed cost for August will exactly be equal to $2 million as well. So I just solved the first question. I'm good to go. The second question is, what was the UFC for July? Guys, remember the 4 steps, okay? Remember 4 steps. Let me just clear this, okay? And then I will solve for it. Remember 4 different steps we have to utilize. What am I solving for? Understand the question, first step. What am I solving for? I'm solving for UFC for what? For July. Step number 2. Do I have a specific equation for UFC? Yes, I do. UFC is equal to FC over number of units sold. Great. UFC is equal to FC over number of units sold. Excuse my handwriting, because sometimes it's not. I just write it. Anyway, you got me. Step number 3. Analyze the component of the equation. Take a look at, guys. Step number 1 here. Step number 2 here. I'm not going to do this for every single equation, every single in-class exercise that we are dealing with. This is just the first example. That's why I'm just taking my time, creating everything over here, and then show it to you guys, okay? I want you to get used to it. That's how you learn how to move forward and how to get comfortable with dealing with quantitative questions that you will be facing with, you will be experiencing in this class, guys, okay? It's all for you. Step number 3. What was my step number 3? Analyze the components of the equation. So ask yourself, the components of the equation. This is the equation right here. Ask yourself, do I have number of units sold given in the question? Do you have that for July? This is for July. Do you have that? Yes, you do. Do you have fixed cost given in July? Yes, you are. Okay? Then all we have to do, UFC will be equal to $2 million over 5,000. Let me show you. Sorry, by the way, the equation right here. Okay. Again, this is the answer for the first one. Okay, and this is the answer for the second one. Yes, of course, 5,000. And when I do the math, my UFC will be $400 for July. I am not done yet because I still have to find out UFC for August. Okay, guys? Well, that was number 4, actually. Step number 4 in my solution. So UFC for August, I know what I'm solving for. I know the equation. I'm going to analyze the equation right now. UFC is equal to, again, let me just write it down. And then I want, in later chapters. So this is my equation for August. Do I know the fixed costs? Analyzing components, step number 3. Yes, I do. Do I know number of units sold for August? Yes. Remember, let me go up and show you. It was 5,250 rooms that we sell in August. Therefore, instead of 5,000, you can see in my solutions as well. Let me clear this area real quick. You can see in my solutions as well, instead of 5,000 this time I will have to get 5,250. Yes, I do know that. And when I do the equation right here, when I put the components right here, excuse me, sorry, 5,250, it will be equal to 380.95. This was the second question. Okay, and this was the second and third question right here. Guys, what do you see here? Think about it a little bit, okay? We know that fixed cost, we just learned that fixed cost doesn't change in the short and midterm, right? Right, with the changing sales volume. And we also know that UFC decreases if the sales volume increases. Do we know that? Did we just learn that? Yes, we did. Take a look at this. From 5,000 room sales in July to 5,250 room sales to in August. Do you think our sales increased? Yes, it did. Do you think our revenue increased? Assuming ADR will be the same? Yes, it did. So if the sales volume increases, UFC must decrease. Am I right, guys? I can hear you saying, or doing this with your head. I'm right. UFC should decrease. So this is the proof that, take a look at the UFCs. This is the proof that UFC in July, it was $400, but now it is $380.95 because of the increased sales. Okay, guys. This is the proof that shows and confirms the notion that we just learned right now, and this shows the relationship. This example shows the different relationship of fixed cost and UFC in respect to changing sales volume, guys. Okay. One more thing I would like to mention. You can see 2 decimal points over here, and this is an important information. I would like to tell you, I do utilize in official business reporting, you will have to utilize 2 decimal points. Therefore, I'm going to utilize 2 decimal points for most of the solutions. Well, you might just you might just be like, okay, so I'm going to use 2 decimal points, but what about this? It's just an even number, right? 400, of course. Guys, if I am not solving for rooms, plates, number of glasses, like units. If I am not solving for specific units, such as rooms, F&B items, or anything, okay, I'm going to utilize 2 decimal points, such as UFC, revenues, profit, cost, whatever. But if I am utilizing number of rooms, if I'm, let's say, trying to solve for number of rooms, I will have to round it up or round it down to come up with an even number for the rooms, for the F&B items, because it's just the one item itself, okay, because of the official count of those items. Please keep that in mind. If you have any questions about this, you can always ask me, always, or any other question, make sure that you can always ask me, guys. So, yes. So this was the fixed cost, and then variable cost, which is excuse me, which is the upcoming concept, is also another important cost item, cost structure, cost section, whatever you want to name. It is all up to you guys, okay? In hospitality operations, hotel and lodging establishments, restaurant establishments, or entertainment venues, event companies, casinos, tourism establishments, you name it. It's very critical, very important. So what is variable cost? What does it do? And what kind of relationship that variable cost has by respect to changing sales volume? Guys, of course, in this part of the lecture, we are going to analyze VC and UVC. VC is the total variable cost. UVC is the unit fixed variable cost. Okay, we are going to analyze those two. Guys, VC has, variable cost, let me just define the variable cost and then we're going to take it from there. Variable cost is the cost that changes time to time, fluctuates in respect to changing sales volume. If the sales volume changes, which it does in real life, in hospitality establishments, it changes as well. How? If the sales volume goes up, variable cost goes up, okay? So there is a positive relationship between variable cost and the sales volume. Again, if variable cost up, if sales volume goes up, variable cost up, and vice versa. If sales volume goes down, variable cost will go down as well, okay? Take a look at the VC. It's something is happening for VC over here, UVC over here, guys, okay? UVC doesn't change with changing sales volume. Why? because of the cost, specific cost structure that UVC has. UVC is the variable cost per unit, per room, per F&B item, whatever. Okay, it just does not change with the changing sales volume because it is already the cost of production of any item is already factored in the calculations. I will show you the graph. I will, of course, just like we did in FC, I will prove that to you guys that UVC doesn't change. So this is my variable cost graph right here that I would like to talk about. I would like to show you guys. Variable cost graph is right here again. Excuse me. Sales volume is increasing from this point to this point. This is the volume right here. This is my variable cost on my two-dimensional graph, vertical side and horizontal side. As you can tell, from $50 to $400, my variable cost is increasing. Take a look at the red line over here, guys. Sales volume, if sales volume increases, which it is from this point to that point, variable cost is also increases. From at 50 point, my variable cost was 50, but at 200 point, my variable cost is 400. But we see it at the total level for the entire operation, guys, okay? Don't forget that. So, again, sales volume increases, VC increases, and vice versa, okay? How about UVC? So, we said that UVC will be constant in regard to changing sales volume. Is that so? Well, it is so. Okay, take a look. Volume over here again. Okay, from $0 to $3. Constant line, just like fixed cost. Doesn't matter you sell 50, you have $2 of variable cost you have to pay. Doesn't matter you have 200, you have $2 of your unit variable cost that you have to pay to produce that specific product. Let's say rooms. Okay, let's say, or seats in the event department or entertainment venues or entertainment companies. Okay, or rooms in the cruise lines. So you can just expand the examples. We do have the main equation, guys. Just like fixed cost, we do have two different main equations for VC. Okay, number one, number two right here. Sum of all the variable costs incurred. If the question or case study includes the list of variable cost items, you will have to utilize the first one. If not, UVC multiplied by number of units sold will be the main equation to find VC, and UVC is equal to VC over number of units sold. Therefore, these are the equations that we're going to utilize for VC and UVC in our examples, guys. Okay, so let's deal with the example. Let's see how it works, and then we will proceed to the next level for mixed cost after the variable costs. Let's read the question, guys. Okay. Let's understand the question. First step, don't forget. Imagine that GH Luxury Hotels has 3,000 rooms with 90% occupancy. 3,000 rooms with 90% occupancy in a given year. Perfect. If the average daily rate, which is ADR, is $210, and if 42% of the total room revenue is VC, what are UVC and VC? VC and UVC for GH, okay? Guys, first question. There are two questions. VC for GH Luxury Hotels and UVC for GH Luxury Hotels. Excuse me. I'm solving for VC, step number one. I know what I'm solving for. I understood the question. I know what I'm solving for right now. Step number two. Do I have the right equation for VC? Let me go back up. I have two equations. Which one I can utilize? What do you think? Ask yourself. Do you have all the variable cost items listed? No. Therefore, this equation will be the main equation. So I have UVC is equal to UVC multiplied by number of units sold. Okay? I'm going to find this right now. Take a look at my solution. Let me just erase this. Take a look at my solution, guys. VC, this is the equation for VC, but when you take a look at the solution, I cannot start from this equation. Why? Because I don't know what UVC is, okay? I can find number of units sold, but I don't know what this guy is. So I am stuck right here. I don't know what UVC is. I don't know this, okay? Because it's not given in the question, and I cannot find it over here without doing something else. I will show you. I will tell you. So I don't know what this is. So my equation, if I want to utilize the information given, my equation will look like 3,000 multiplied by 0.9. I will explain this to you in a second. So I don't know this guy. I'm trying to find this guy. So I have two unknowns in the equation. I cannot proceed further by using VC equation. Okay, guys? I can do something else. I will explain this to you in a second. Okay? So I have two questions. I have to find VC and UVC separately for GH hotel. But if I would like to start, solving for VC, it doesn't work. Well, I know that UVC is equal to number of units sold. Okay, UVC is equal to VC over number of units sold. Let me see if this equation works. So I can take it from there. I can find both VC and UVC. That's what I'm doing. UVC is equal sign. VC is equal sign. Question mark. I'm doing this. I'm solving for these two different questions. Number one. Question number one. Question number two. Okay. So I will show you my solution keys as well. Take a look at this. UVC is equal to VC over number of units sold. I know what I'm doing. I just picked the equation. Now I will have to analyze the equation, guys. Do I have number of units sold given in the question? No, directly given in the question. Directly, like let's say this amount of rooms that we sold. Does it say in the question? No. Do I have VC given in the question? Directly? No. If the answers are no for the third step, you can immediately raise additional question. Can I find number of units sold? Can I find it? Yes, you can. Can I find VC as well? Yes, you can. Well, if you find that guy, all you have to do is simple division to find UVC. When you find UVC, you will have to go back to VC equation to find VC, and you just solve the entire question by just finding the individual components of UVC. Guys, what we have to do, okay, before we get to the final point, which is the UVC in this case, okay, we have to go back and find number of units sold first, then the VC, then combine them together over here to find UVC, okay? Take a look at my solution over here, guys. Just like I do, I have to find number of units sold, number of rooms sold in this case, of course. Total available rooms multiplied by occupancy percentage. Total available rooms is 3,000. Total occupancy percentage is 90%, okay? So 3,000 multiplied by 90%, 2,700 rooms sold in this question. So I just got this guy. Let me just erase this, okay? I can rewrite the equation. I will derive the equation for you. 2,700, I can do this, right? I just solved number of rooms sold. Let's keep going. Well, in the question, it says 42% of the total room revenue is VC. Guys, look, there is a condition for us. 42% of the total room revenues are the variable costs, okay? Is the variable cost. If 42% of the total room revenue is the variable cost, well, I have to find total room revenue first. Then I can just take 42% of the total room revenue that I find, and I will be able to find variable cost. Am I right? Yes, I'm right. So what am I gonna do first? Before I get to this point, on a side, I will have to find total room revenue, and I will show you guys total room revenue is equal to number of rooms sold multiplied by ADR, and this is the equation I'm going to utilize to find out total room revenue, guys. All right? Number of rooms sold, I know what it is. Take a look at the equation over here. I know number of rooms sold is 2,700. ADR is 210. When I multiply them together, guys, 5,700 becomes the room's revenue. Okay? All I have to do, I'm going to take 42% of the room revenue that I find. Please follow the solution steps, and my VC will be 238,140. Okay? Great. Again, what I did, I know that VC is 42% of the room revenues. I find the room revenue first, $567,000, okay? By multiplying number of rooms sold with ADR because of the equation, rooms revenue equation. And then I took 42% of the room revenue to find out 238, 140, okay? Which becomes my VC. Therefore, take a look at my UVC equation right now. Fourth step, do the solution, do the division, do the math. When I do the math, my UVC becomes $88.20, okay? $88.20, my UVC becomes, guys, okay? So I know what VC is right now, I know what UVC is right now, therefore this is how I drive my solutions. Again, and do the 4 steps, okay? If you, in the third step, if you don't have any component of any equation, solve for that specific component on a side and then come back to your main equation, then take it from there to find the final answer, just like we did over here, guys, okay? Please keep that in mind. This will be your solution motto, problem solution motto for the rest of your life in the semester, okay? I have another question over here, guys. Take a look. What happens to VC and UVC? Again, I'm solving for VC and UVC, okay? When occupancy percent increases to 95%, it was 90% and my VC was 238, 140 and my UVC was $88.20, right? But this was when I had 90% occupancy. What happens when I had 95% occupancy right now? I'm going to recalculate everything just like I did for this solution, guys. And then I will try to analyze differences for managerial decision-making process. We can talk about this, and I'm going to show you something as well. And also, lastly, we're going to prove something as well. Check it out, okay? If occupancy is 95% right now, my room sold will be 3,000 multiplied by 0.95, which means number of available rooms multiplied by occupancy percentage. My room sold will be 2,850, okay? $2,850. Very good. Well, if I sell 2,850 rooms, my room revenue will be number of rooms sold multiplied by ADR, because we are assuming the other variables will stay the same, okay? When I do this multiplication, my room revenue will be 598, 500, okay, guys? Therefore, my VC, I'm going to follow please remember those two equations for VC and UVC. Therefore, I'm going to follow those two equations to find out over here, because I know that 42% is still the VC, okay? Therefore, 42% is the VC, 42% of the room revenues are still the VC, assuming other variables are going to stay the same. Remember the question over here. Let me just go up real quick. Remember the question over here, guys. Okay, I'm still solving for GH luxury, but there's a different condition right now. So all I have to take, I'm going to take 42% of the room's revenue right here. Remember, my room revenue was just like this, 251,370. When I do the equation, 251,370 will be my variable cost, okay? All I have to do, I'm going to utilize this equation right here, VC over number of units sold, 88.20% will be my UVC. Guys, my question to you right now. Do you see anything when you take a look at differences between those two different solutions. One with 90%, we just sold UVC and VC, and the other one was based on 95%, and we sold for VC and UVC based on those conditions. Take a look. When the occupancy percentage was 90%, okay, my revenue was $5,670,000, $5,067,000. My VC was $238,140. My UVC was 88.20. This was when we had 90%. Now we have 95%. Okay. Take a look at the room revenue, VC and UVCs. Room revenue. Has room revenue increased? Yes. If the room revenue increased, that means that sales must increase too, right? Must have increased. Yes. From 90% to 95%. If sales volume increases, do you think the fixed cost will increase as well? Yes. Take a look from 238,140 to 251,370. Sales volume increased, therefore room revenues, because of the occupancy and the variable cost increases. So we have proved that we have proved the relationship. But there were increases in the sales volume, number of rooms sold, and the occupancy. Great. But my UVC is staying still $88.20. This is for the condition when we had 90%. This is for the condition when we had 95%. Still $88.20, guys. Okay? This is because of the unique contribution of variable cost when producing one room or one unit in the entire operation, and we just proved that sales volume increases, decreases, whatever happens to sales volume, UVC will have the flat line on the two-dimensional graph. This was just a proof. Okay, guys? All right, so moving on. We have another important component that we have to talk about right now. It is called mixed costs. Okay, guys, mixed cost is the combination of total fixed cost and total variable cost. Let me write it down. Mixed cost is the combination of FC and VC. If mixed cost is FC and VC, mixed cost also becomes the total cost, which is also equal to FC and VC. Do you see what I'm talking about, guys? Therefore, mixed cost is also the total cost in hospitality operations. All right? Right here. Okay? Unit mixed cost, okay, let me define that as well. Unit mixed cost is equal to, is the combination of, is the total of unit fixed cost and unit variable cost. Okay? Well, we know that unit fixed cost plus unit variable cost is also the total cost to produce one unit. Therefore, unit total cost, UTC, is also equal to UFC plus UVC. If they have the same equation after the equal sign, UMC must be equal to UTC, which is unit total cost. Okay? That's what we're going to deal with right now. What we're going to do, we're going to combine FC and VC together and UFC and UVC together to come up with and to see how those components are acting in hospitality operations for specific type of operations. And I will show you one thing that you will hopefully like. Let me just clear the area. Guys, there are methods to find out UMC, UFC, UMC and MC, which is the mixed cost, and the unit mixed cost. For example, high-low method right here. You can see right here. Please follow my finger. High-low two-point method, scatter diagram, and or regression analysis. We are not going to analyze any of these in this lecture, but I'm just giving you a heads up and then make you aware that there are different methods that people utilize to find out MC, UMC in hospitality operations, okay? Guys, this is the cost or the graph of MC, okay? When you take a look, well, I cannot show you in one document, it's, I don't have enough space, but please take a look at your lecture notes as well. From low to high, sales volume over here, dollars over here. Fixed cost, we know that it has to be a constant line in the two-dimensional graph, sales volume dollars, okay? And then total mixed cost is increases because variable cost, which is the difference between total mixed cost and the fixed cost, okay, is increases with the increasing sales volume. Remember, from here to here, sales volume is increasing. Therefore, total mixed cost is increasing. Total mixed cost, which is also the total cost, okay, it is increasing because of the increasing variable cost right here. So this is the representation of mixed cost, and this is the intuition behind how mixed cost is created based on the combination of FC and VC. I wanted to show you guys before I talk about the specific hospitality operation that deals with a mixed cost situation. We have the equations for the mixed cost as well, okay. Mixed cost, as you can see, is equal to FC plus, in parentheses, UVC multiplied by a total number of units sold. This is the equation for the mixed cost. And we have the equation for the UMC. UMC is equal to MC over total number of units sold. And we are going to use them in our in-class exercises that are on lecture notes to find out specific cost components by combining FC and VC or UFC and UVC, okay? Guys, this is the equation right. This is the equation right here. Sorry, not equation. This is the question right here for MC and UMC. I would like to read the question again. Always remember the four steps. I might be annoying a little bit, I understand, but since this is the first time that you are going over in-class exercise with me on a virtual space, which is this, therefore I would like to remind you everything, so you will be accustomed to doing all this by yourself after the lecture, okay? Great Eastern Retail Management Corporation sets a base franchisee fee as $1,500 and gets $4 from every retail store that the company has nationwide, okay? If one of its retail stores sells a total of 2,300 items in 2012, what are MC and UMC, okay, in 2012 for this store? Guys, what am I solving for? Now, step number one, MC, UMC, done. Step number two, do I know the equations for MC and UMC? Oh yes, I do. I have MC equation right here and UMC equation right here. Step number three, sorry, do I know any component of any equation that I have to utilize? Let's check. MC is equal to what? FC over, in parentheses. Remember, let me show you one more time. Well, let me just show you right here. UVC multiplied by total number of units sold. Am I right? Okay. So let's just analyze the components, and then let's see if we can find MC. Do I have total number of units given in the question? 2,300. So I can rewrite this equation. Okay. Do I have UVC given in the question? Yes. $4 from every store that they get, every item, not store by the way, there's a type over here that's item. Every item they get from the sales is the variable cost, because if you sell more, you will pay more. If you sell less, you will pay less. Therefore, $4 over here becomes my unit variable cost, okay? And this is how my equation looks like right now. Do I have the very fixed cost given in the question? Yes. Franchisee fee, set franchisee fee, doesn't change. It's always 1,500. Even though you sell one item or 1 million item, it is always 1,500. Therefore, 1,500 plus, in parentheses, 4 multiplied by 2,300. This is my MC equation. Boom. Step number 3, when I'm done right now, tells me that I have all the components of the equation I'm using. All I have to do, I'm going to do the math right here, okay guys? And 10,700 will be my mixed cost that I just find right now. Cool. How about the unit mixed cost? Do we know the equation? So we are done with the first question. Second question, do we know the equation for UMC, guys? Of course we do. MC, excuse me, MC over total number of units sold is the equation. Do I know total number of units sold given the question directly? Yes, of course, 2,300. Do I know MC? Yeah, I just calculated MC in preceding analysis, correct? Yes, I know the MC. All I have to do, I'm going to take MC over here divided by number of units sold, $4.65 becomes my unit mixed cost. Guys, check it out. Unit mixed cost is equal to UVC plus UFC at the same time, correct? $4.65 is equal to UVC plus UFC. I know what UVC is. It's $4. 4 plus UFC, 4.65 is equal to $4 and UFC. Therefore, when I do the subtraction over here, my UFC becomes 65 cents, and that's how I derive, another solution as an extension of this question. I didn't write over here, I didn't put it in my lecture notes, but this is just how I derive as an extension of what I'm solving for. Okay guys, just to prove that UMC is the total cost to produce one unit, and MC is the total cost to produce all of the units that you have in as a owner, operator, decision maker, you have in hospitality operations, guys. Excuse me. I can utilize FC and VC in one of the most important decision-making process in hospitality industries as well. Guys, so I would like to introduce you indifference point for FC and VC, and that's very, very, very critical because it saves lives. When I say it saves lives, it does make you realize as an owner, decision maker, GM, CEO, or a regional director, okay, it does make you realize that you can save a lot of money. Of course, in profits, your pocket money. Profits are your pocket money after taxes and interest. And you can save a lot of money by just analyzing this very simple tool, yet very important tool. Indifference point. Indifference point is the cutoff point for your fixed costs, along with the variable options. Okay. Indifference point is your benchmark that shows you what to pick for your fixed cost component of your operations. It might not make sense right now when I'm talking, but when I show you the example, let me just show you the example, and it will make much more sense. Take a look at the Bardeen restaurant example that we have. They are trying to come up with its current leasing cost structure, and they have the different leasing options, because in real life, when you work with, if you run the operation, you work with different suppliers, vendors, and the third parties. And the lease expense is the biggest chunk of the fixed cost component in the hospitality industry, any company in the hospitality industry. Therefore, trying to decrease the fixed cost and stabilize it at a certain level, because we have the constant line, stabilize it at a certain level saves lives. That's exactly what I meant by saving lives. Take a look at this example. So you're sitting down in a business meeting with your vendor, with your third-party supplier, your lessee, lessor, I don't know what it is, but lessee, I guess. You have either option signing a fixed lease as $48,000, okay, fixed lease, FL, look further, $48,000, okay, which means you have to pay $48,000 every month, every quarter, every year, regardless of your sales volume. Or you have an option to sign the variable lease term, VL, as 5% of the revenues, okay? What conclusions can be drawn by running the indifference point analysis based on these three conditions? In other words, how are you going to pick whether you're going to choose the fixed option or the variable option? Which tool you're going to utilize to do this? You're going to utilize an indifference point analysis. Very simple yet very important. Okay? Indifference point analysis to come up with the right and correct, accurate, and very financially healthy decision decision to do this. Whatever I talk is over here, okay? What we have to do, guys, we have to find the annual revenue generated as the indifference point. Indifference point is the benchmark for the revenues. Remember, therefore, we have to find that benchmark by given information. I don't know why I just raised it, but we have $48,000 as the fixed lease, and we have 5% of the revenues, okay? As the variable lease, we have two options right here, okay? So we have to find, we are dealing with indifference point because that's the analysis, and then we have to find the benchmark, which is also the indifference cutoff point, so that we can analyze our options. Guys, in order for us to find that benchmark, we have to find the annual revenue generated, which is the indifference point itself, which is equal to fixed lease term over variable lease percentage. In order for us to do that, we will have to find the fixed lease term, which is indifference point, okay, in INAF point, which is equal to $48,000 over 5%. 5%, this is the mathematical representation of 5%. We never put 5% here, just like this. That's the text, okay? Keep that in mind. Therefore, when I do this equation, guys, my indifference point becomes $9,600. Well, sorry. 9,060, well, let me tell you this. I sometimes have a hard time pronouncing numbers as a finance professor, but if I just pronounce number by number, excuse me. So this is our indifference point, which is the benchmark that we will get to decide. Okay, so I will show you the example right now. Guys, 9,600, I'm sorry, 960, 3 zeros, okay? This is your revenue benchmark because we just find indifference point revenue, which is the annual revenue generated at the indifference point. Annual revenue generated at the indifference point. Imagine that this is your benchmark. So, what you have to do as a decision maker, you're going to go back to your historical financial statements, collect all the revenue data, analyze it to see what's your average revenue is. If your long-term average revenue falls behind this cutoff point, let's say $800,000, I'm just making that up, okay? Which one would you pick? Fixed option or the variable option? Variable option, right here at this side of the operation, okay, variable option becomes very, very efficient because when I take 5% of $800,000, it is $40,000, okay? I will have to pay $40,000 as fixed revenues. Well, if you didn't know this as a decision maker, you would pick $48,000 and you're automatically losing $8,000 in your operation, okay? Of course, if your historical revenue data shows that you're always making, let's say, 1.1 million, 1.6 million, 2.1 million in your operation, locking yourself in a stable rate, which is $48,000, which is the fixed option, becomes very, very efficient because, let's say, if you're dealing with 1 million, if your average revenue is $1 million, 5% of that $1 million is 50 grand. Therefore, you are saving, let's say, $2,000 over here. That is exactly why indifference cost becomes very important because sometimes this saves lives during the during the low season. Because hospitality industry, remember from the first chapter, hospitality industry deals with seasonality a lot. That's why during the low season, this might save your life, and that's exactly why I said saving your life. Okay, so let me just show you. This is the solution of what we just did. Okay, guys, $960,000. As you can see, it is right here. This is my indifference point. Okay, anything this side, any revenue points this side, variable lease becomes beneficial. For example, $720,000 right here. Look, I only paid $36,000. Anything here, fixed lease is beneficial, financially beneficial, all right? Because 1.2 million, look, I only pay $48,000. Okay, guys, instead of 60 grand. So I'm saving 12 grand over here. Very simple, you know, and trust me, in real life, not many people well, in the decision making position. Not many people know this. So if you equip yourself with this very simple but yet very important analysis, you will save lives in your operation. Okay, and you know what I'm saying by saving life in the operations. Guys, again, if you have any questions, please shoot me an email. Please follow your course schedule. Don't forget, I felt like reminding it. This is just the explanation that we just talked right now about indifference point. Okay, you can read it again. So we are approaching the last piece of chapter. We just need 5-6 minutes. But again, let me remind you this: if you have any questions, anything in your mind, please shoot me an email or use any other options to reach me, and then we will talk about your concerns. Guys, the last piece of this chapter talks about different cost structure. We're not going to do any analysis, but I would like to introduce the relevant cost structure in hospitality industry, and I will give you the implications and applications of those costs to see where you can use, which companies can use, or what type of operation. I mean, in what specific operations that you can utilize this cost. For example, excuse me, step cost is the cost that increases as the range of activity increases. Okay. Usually, event companies utilizes this. Take a look at this example. For example, the graph. Take a look at this graph. For example, if you expect in any event up to 30 guests, you'd need one server. If you expect the guest number to be between 31 and 60, you need 2 servers, so on and so forth. Event companies, entertainment venues usually utilizes this. Why? Because you need, let's say, 45 guests. You only need 2 servers. But if you hire 3 servers on an hourly base, you're losing money. You're increasing your labor cost because you didn't do this analysis. Okay, guys? So that's why step cost becomes very important for the labor cost side of any hospitality operation. Direct and indirect costs. These are the overhead costs. Direct costs are the cost that directly affects a specific department, for example, food costs, F&B department. Indirect costs are the costs that affects every single department, but it has no direct and specific effect. For example, office supplies. Every single department, F&B department, rooms department, housekeeping, safety, security, valet, spa, wellness, catering, convention center, every single department in a hotel, let's say in a hotel establishment, uses office supplies, pen, pencil, printer, whatever. Okay, that is why indirect costs are the costs that not directly related to any department. Controllable costs, these are mostly the variable costs that you can control. You have a control of. You can decrease it, you can increase it. You can, for example, cut the portion size to decrease the variable cost for restaurant operations, or you can just increase the length of turn down service to 10 minutes from 12 minutes. The industry averages around 15 minutes per room. These are the examples. Okay, differential cost. You get to differentiate between the 2 different costs. This is just like baking a cake or buying the cake. Okay, that's why these are the different cost structure. Okay, or the computer installation, upgrading the software or buying the new software is also the issues. Sunk cost. These are the costs that you cannot recover at all. It's gone forever. Opportunity cost, these are the best foregone opportunity cost. For example, if you would like to, you are the hotel investor, you have 2 options: investing in a beach resort in Cancun, Mexico versus in the Keys in Florida. Okay, so if you pick Cancun, Mexico, you are giving up the opportunities that the Key West or the key areas offers in terms of hospitality and tourism. Therefore, this is called opportunity cost. Okay. Incremental cost increases every, for example, 1,000th unit. It is just like step cost, but the only difference is incremental costs they have the fixed cost in a big chunk of interval. Step cost doesn't. And you determine the step cost, and incremental is determined itself. That's the differences. Standard cost, it is the standards that we are dealing with. For example, big companies, big hospitality companies create the standards and then do the variance analysis based on those standards, and that standard becomes the standard cost that they only can pay we are gonna do this analysis in later chapters, chapter 8, chapter 9, variance analysis, and that becomes their cost in terms of their standards, because every professional big companies like Marriott or I don't know, Carnival Cruise Lines, they do have the operational standards that they operate based on. Therefore, their standards becomes their costs, and they calculate or the forecast the budget and create the budget for the following operation cycle. All right, guys, this is the last thing that we have to talk about for chapter 2. I hope you enjoyed that important chapter. What we are going to do for the next chapters, we are going to build on top of what we learned today. Chapter 3 upcoming, CVP analysis, cost, volume, profit analysis. We are going to mention that, and we need the cost structure. We need to know all the stuff we talked today. We need to know these. So please make sure that you watch the video, related video. You do the practice for the quizzes, and start with your homework set. It will because I don't want you to get frustrated or overwhelmed right before deadline. Follow the course schedule. Any questions, shoot me an email. I am available 24. I was gonna say 24/7, but I'm not. But I'm available most of the time of the day. Even though it's late, I will try to answer your question whenever I get it. Shoot me an email, any questions, follow the course schedule, and I will see you guys in the next video, which is the CVP analysis, which is the 3rd chapter. Until then, take care of yourself, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you.